Beyond the Yellow Fog by Emmett McDowell. Part 5 of 8. This story appeared in Planet Stories, spring of 1947. Extensive research by Project Gutenberg at Gutenberg.org did not uncover any evidence that the copyright on this publication was renewed. Chapter 6. By the sixth day, Gavin Murdoch was no nearer the solution of the Little Death than he had been at the start. It was Wilanowski's watch below. Gavin sat on the observation deck, watching the 3 streaks in the void which betrayed their pursuers. They had closed the gap until they were almost on top of them. If the Nova possessed a unique space drive, Gavin reflected, she'd better be unlimbering it. The 3 ships were almost in atomic shell range. His thoughts wrestled for the 100th time with the Little Death. Wilanowski had become suspicious and clammed up. The officers frankly didn't like to discuss it. They evaded his questions, insisting he must first experience it. Suddenly Gavin started to his feet, his eyes searching the void. In toward the sun he had glimpsed the hairline of a rocket ship's jets. He thought he could distinguish 5 separate streaks of light, but they were so faint and far away that they blended into one streak. 5 trails? That could only mean a flight of patrol spacers blasting after the 3 pursuers of the Nova. Gavin heard a step behind him and twisted sideways, his hand rising to his shoulder holster. Nadia Petrovna came out on the observation deck. She caught sight of Gavin and started to withdraw. Then an expression of determination took possession of her features. She flushed and said, "Let's call off the war." "Sure." Gavin's voice was without mockery, but his hand still hovered close to his chest. The girl came across the deck, her expression flooded with relief. "I'm glad now I didn't kill you. I was frightened. You believed it?" "Sure." "I've never dared tell anybody what I was forced to tell you. I've lived for 2 years in absolute terror. I was desperate." "Sure." "You don't believe me?" "Not altogether," he admitted. His hand didn't leave his chest. "Why should I?" Nadia bit her lip. Then she slipped her hand in the breast of her coveralls, brought out her diminutive dart gun. She brought it out very slow, and holding it by the barrel because Gavin was covering her with his own automatic. "Drop it," he commanded. "Push it to me with your foot." "Now," she said, "can we talk without suspicion? I'm unarmed." "Are you?" Her black eyes widened in surprise. "Yes, of course, I wouldn't." "Wouldn't you?" asked Gavin stonily. She sighed faintly. "You can search me." Gavin moved around behind her. He searched her impersonally, but thoroughly. If she'd been concealing so much as a postage stamp, he was convinced he would have found it. "All right," he said with a grin. "Now I trust you." She dropped to a deck chair. "I've been trying to work up enough courage," she confessed, to talk to you. But you've been so grim you've frightened me off." "Why? Do you want another try at me?" "That's not fair." Her eyes sought the deck. "I'm afraid. Cabot has been... I think he suspects me of working with X." "Are you?" "No!" Her voice was shocked. "But Trev was." She nodded. "And you were working with Trev?" "I wasn't working with him," she protested. "Only that one time. He offered me 5,000 credits to copy the Saturn's loader." "How did you connect with the Nova?" "Do you mean, how did I happen to get the job as third mate? But I told you, I was a cadet aboard the Saturn. I simply asked Cabot for the job." Gavin said, "That lie wouldn't fool a school kid. If you were prescribed by Tri-World, you wouldn't have dared approach Cabot in the open. Someone hid you out. Someone with enough influence with Cabot got you aboard the Nova." The general alarm cut loose with its strident clangor. Gavin sprang to his feet. "What's that for?" "The little death," Nadia said with a shudder. As suddenly as the bell started, it was stilled. A harsh voice came through the public address system. "Go to your quarters immediately. All personnel report immediately to your quarters and take to your bunks." The voice brayed forth the commands 3 more times at short intervals. Gavin started at a run for the interior of the ship. Wait for me," Nadia cried. He paused. "You better run for your cabin." "I'm scared," she confessed in a trembling voice. "Let me come with you." "I'm going to the engine room." "But—" Her black eyes opened wide. Then she said defiantly, "I don't care. I want to come too." The jets fell silent. "There she goes over to the robot pilot. If you're coming with me, you'll have to stretch a leg." Without another word, he plunged off down the corridor. A peculiar whine began to make itself heard. It was so high it hurt his ears. The atmosphere within the ship was growing foggy. A yellow-tinged mist eddied sluggishly like ink discoloring a glass of water. He reached the engine room. There he halted so abruptly that Nadia pitched against him. The engine room was deserted, but the strange door in the aft bulkhead stood open. "What is it?" Nadia whispered. "Don't know." He blinked his eyes, trying to pierce the gathering yellow fog. He caught a glimpse of a bank of switches, the base of a spherical tube big as a man. Then Wilanowski passed across the opening from left to right. Gavin began to creep toward the door. Halfway there, a blinding flash stabbed at the base of his skull. He swayed dizzily, thought, "Nadia!" Half drawing his dart gun, he turned laboriously around. But the girl lay stretched on the deck, her long black lashes fluttering. Gavin paused, tried to turn back to the door. It was like moving through syrup. A second flash burst in his brain. He pitched to the deck. 9 years, said a man's stifled voice. It reached Gavin, vaguely distorted like an image through wavy glass. "My orbit, it's been 9 years." Through the open window came a wailing chant of imported black laborers from Terra. "But I didn't do it! You can't take me back now!" The man's face was sweating and yellow-white. His fingers twitched. He spread them nervously on the desktop. "I'm prescribed! Jordan was a stockholder in Amalgamated Plastic. They'll kill me! Even in the Lunar Corrective Colony, they'll kill me." "Sorry." The cold, unfeeling tone of his own voice shocked Gavin. "But it's been 9 years." The man persisted, as if the time meant anything. Gavin had been sent out by the TIS to get him. 20 years wouldn't have made any difference. "Even if I was guilty, I've proved I don't need corrective psychiatry. I'm not an incorrigible." "Look," Gavin interrupted, "I've got a job. I don't know whether you're guilty or not, and I don't care. I don't even blame you for killing Jordan, if you did." Gavin's sense of strangeness increased. This had all happened once before, during his first year in the TIS. This man had been accused of murdering a minor official of Amalgamated Plastic and had fled. After 9 years, the TIS had learned that he was at a remote trading post on Ganymede. Gavin had been sent to fetch him back for trial. Only Gavin wasn't dreaming all this now. He was reliving it. He was inside himself, yet outside, judging, appraising his own actions with the detachment of an impersonal observer. "I can make you rich! Millions of credits!" The man's voice became low, wheedling. "There's a deposit of pitchblende back in the hills. It's fabulous." "It's no use," said Gavin harshly. "Hell, man, I'd always known that 6 or 7 years from now, another TIS agent might tap me on the shoulder like I've done you. Besides, I'm satisfied. I'm a manhunter. If you like, I'm a manhunter. You might as well ask a cat to turn loose a mouse. It's against his nature. Come along now." "Murderer," said the man with disconcerting calmness. I'm innocent, and you're killing me just as surely as if you shot me with that dart gun. Do you think Amalgamated Plastic has forgotten? I'm proscribed. Their agents will get me. Why don't you shoot me outright?" His voice ran up the scale, half hysterical with fright as he read his sentence in Gavin's cold, unblinking eyes. "You're not human! Go ahead! Kill me now! I'm not coming, do you hear? I'm not coming!" Gavin saw himself reach suddenly across the desk and rap the fugitive on the skull with the butt of his dart gun. From its peculiar vantage point, the detached half of Gavin's personality knew the inexorable sequence of events to follow. He would haul the fellow back to Terra, where he would be murdered by agents of Amalgamated Plastic at his trial. For the first time, Gavin realized he was seeing himself as he must appear to others. A gaunt, hollow-cheeked, sandy-haired man with implacable blue eyes, tight-lipped, hard-faced. Manhunter. He felt the cold deck under his fingers. He opened his eyes. He was still in the Nova's engine room. The yellow mist had dissipated. He saw Wilanowski standing over him. The chief's homely features were cold. "What the hell are you doing here?" Gavin pulled himself together with an effort and scrambled to his feet. "Curious," he admitted frankly. From the corner of his eyes, he saw Nadia sit up, holding her temples. Wilanowski's eyes narrowed. "What did you see?" "Nothing," Gavin said in a disappointed voice. He could feel the perspiration break through his pores. Wilanowski was no fool. "The mist caught us at the foot of the ladder." He paused. "Next time we go into the Little Death, I'd like to be in the control room with you." "You saw the control room?" "Oh, the door was open." Gavin summoned all his histrionic ability to sound convincing. "I saw you and started in, then I fainted, I guess." Indecision was reflected on Wilanowski's face. Finally he growled, "Get out, the pair of you! Don't come down here again except on your watch." Gavin followed the girl up the ladder, his palms slippery with sweat on the cold bars. He wasn't sure whether he'd fooled Wilanowski or not. They entered the mess room, helped themselves to coffee. He realized the girl hadn't uttered a word since the Little Death. He saw she was regarding him with a half-frightened, half-perplexed frown. "How did the Little Death affect you?" he asked her. "I had a dream. At least I think it was." She bit her lip. "What was it about?" "Something in the future." She laughed. "It's silly, isn't it, to be so frightened at a dream? Especially one so fantastic." "I don't know," Gavin replied dryly. "Mine didn't leave me so comfortable, but you haven't told me what yours was." Nadia rubbed her temples. "I dreamed we were all captured on Jupiter and sent to the penal colony." She laughed at herself. "It's so silly, because you... Again she gave a low laugh. "You weren't the IS agent." Gavin felt his mouth go dry. He stared at her in consternation. He moistened his lips and started to ask for more particulars when the chief astrogator entered the mess room. The Nova's astrogator nodded perfunctorily at them and went across to the solar chart. Very deliberately, he pulled out the pin marking the Nova's position, moved it across the map to within a week's voyage of Jupiter. Gavin couldn't believe his eyes. "That's impossible. We weren't unconscious but a few seconds during the Little Death." "An hour," Nadia corrected. "The effects last an hour, so Wilanowski claims." "An hour, then? What difference does it make? The Nova couldn't have gone that distance in an hour, nor in 1,000 hours. Why, man, that's faster than the speed of light." The chief astrogator grunted. "Impossible or not, that's our position. If you don't think so, go out on the observation deck and take a look." Gavin leaped to his feet and plunged through the door. When he came out on the quartzite enclosed deck, he flung his gaze aloft. The entire aspect of the heavens had changed. The 3 streaks denoting the pursuing spacecraft were absent. The sun had diminished to the size of a lemon, and dead ahead loomed the huge banded disk of Jupiter. It was true. In the space of a few moments, the nova had traversed the void between Venus and Jupiter. Even though the planets were in a superior conjunction, the feat was unthinkable. No wonder the big corporations were fighting like wildcats to get a hold of the nova's space drive. Gavin dropped weakly in a deck chair, overawed by the possibilities. A new era of space travel was being inaugurated. End of Part 5.